Next up, we have a speaker from a project called Vibes. His name is Nadim. I don't have my notes, but he will tell you his full name when he comes out. So if we can put our hands together, he's going to be talking about music, creativity, and how the evolution of blockchain cryptocurrencies in this space has now turned out to be very creative for the creator. So please put your hands together for Nadim.
You're welcome. Well, there we go. It's good that people know my name. Excellent. Okay, excuse the notes. I kind of haven't done this before, and I don't want to sit around and waffle on about nonsense, which could happen. So, I want to start with, a declaration, something that I've lived my life by. Make cool things with cool people. That's kind of where I'm at. I've done 20 years of creative businesses. I'm an artist, a musician, a producer, a composer, a DJ, an entrepreneur. I've worked across video games, films, technology, and music. I've made orchestral works, house tunes, punk records, electronica, soul records. It's been cool. I was asked to talk, so I thought I would talk a little bit about how I've managed to kind of carve out this life and kind of what I've learned along the way, what I've experienced, and I kind of feel like, if we care about, us as a species, we should probably all be quite mindful about how we choose to live our lives and by extension, who we choose to surround ourselves with and what we choose to build. So, I'd like to start with an idea, a teaching that I was introduced to a few years ago that comes from Hinduism and Buddhism. And it's the idea that life is a gift and that for you even to be alive, 1 million other things have to die. Right? Plants, animals, the impact that you yourself have on the planet. And being introduced to that concept absolutely changed my life. It kind of makes me wonder whether, if more people were aware of that concept, would we build the society that we live in today? Would that even exist? It's also interesting to me, we're here for the first NFT festival, this technology that's being used by artists, and introducing people and reintroducing people back into art. That we should probably touch on and remember the role of art, what the point is. Art influences societies by changing opinions, instilling values, and translating experiences across space and time. Research has shown that art affects one's fundamental sense of self. Painting, sculpture, music, literature, they're considered to be the repository of a society's collective memory. We can see a number of important roles for art. It promotes expression and creativity. Participation in the arts has been proven to assist kids with language, motor skills, visual learning development. Research indicates that young people who regularly participate in art are 4 times more likely to be recognized for academic achievement later on. In therapy sessions, it provides opportunities for expressing emotions that are otherwise difficult. In one interesting study, children between 6 and 12 were asked to draw a house as a distraction after going through something upsetting. And this group was able to improve their mood considerably, which is interesting. It can be seen that art helps us develop necessary soft skills. By extension, we end up working better. It enhances our ability to adapt to change, to think creatively, to collaborate well with team members. It provides historical content, which is kind of interesting. I wonder when people look back at all this stuff that's happened on these NFTs and blockchains, we'll look back and say, well, these guys were busy chasing money. Maybe. By engaging in art, we gather knowledge and inspiration that contributes to how we speak, feel, and view the world around us. It leads to healthy and thoughtful cultural discussions. Art is supposed to be groundbreaking and controversial. When it's that, it has the potential to spark interesting conversation. And oftentimes that leads to improvement across societies, which again is the point of technology, right? Again, there's been a study where, surveys show that high school students in the States who engage in arts are twice as likely to volunteer. They're actually 20% more likely to vote and participate in, shaping society. So, powerful stuff. So, it kind of occurred to me that maybe we should kind of take those points and figure out, if what we're actually building resembles the function of art. So, I'd like to share how I kind of, got to this kind of point. And I guess it starts with being really fortunate and having great people around me. I've always been lucky to have great people, great teachers, great mentors around me. I'm a musician. I started playing the piano by ear when I was 3. My older sister took piano lessons, and I would just mimic her. My father was a businessman, my mother was a bit of a hipster, and that was interesting because I got to see the risk you have to take as an entrepreneur, coupled with the belief system that if you're good at art, you should naturally pursue it for the right reasons. And that was interesting. I was schooled to believe that most of what we become is because of who we are and the impact that we have on our communities, and that we can't let ourselves be defined solely by what it is we do. And that was an interesting lesson that I learned. I also had quite an amazing aunt. My father's family are from Tanzania, and they ended up having to leave in a mad hurry overnight when Idi Amin's regime came through. They said, if you're there tomorrow, we'll kill you. Lovely. So the family ended up in London. My aunt was 15 years old, pretty traumatized, with no real idea of kind of what to do. So she ended up finding solace in the arts and went on to study teaching and also Jungian psychology. Jungian psychology touches on, psychological healing and wellness by aligning your conscious and unconscious. And because of her understanding of studies in that field, she really championed, a concept called the science of creative intelligence, which is the key teaching behind transcendental meditation, which was made popular by Maharishi Yogi. Lots of big creatives tout that as a way of staying centered. Even technologists, Steve Jobs. These teachings include concepts such as, the world is as we see it. The whole is contained in every single part. Believing that the field of possibilities are in the source of all solutions. She realized that if you could instill these teachings into children at an early age, you'd potentially empower them to have a deeper understanding of life and potentially help them to find their calling earlier. So she entered a teaching career. She took a job at a primary school. She was promptly sacked after dismissing most of the traditional course and encouraging her students to meditate and think about their actions rather than discipline them, which, is something seen as quite normal now, but was quite revolutionary in the 70s. So, in order to keep going, she ended up setting up her own private nursery in North London, where her techniques kind of just attracted horrible press. She was shot down from the moment she opened. She would take kids, 3 years old up to 6 years old, she'd take them to art galleries and the opera. She'd encourage them to do yoga and breathing exercises and meditate. She'd make each child wish each other child good morning in different languages. and teach democracy and freedom and love. Absolutely derided and ridiculed by people at the start. But, her methods spread quickly through artistic circles. And she quickly became the darling of, North London, where her students included the sons and daughters of rock stars and authors and writers, film stars. And a lot of these children eventually went on to establish extremely successful careers for themselves, both inside and outside creative businesses. And what was interesting was, from initially being completely derided, from being ridiculed, she ended up being awarded an OBE for services to education. So, I was incredibly fortunate to have people like that around me. So bringing all of that back in, the roles of art, the roles of influence, having been brought up in this kind of spiritual, creative kind of setting, looking where we're at into like Web3, it kind of feels like we're at quite a big inflection point. Like, we have this guidebook to look at from Web 2, the lessons of social media, suicide rates are up, depression rates are up, a whole generation with self-worth issues, like body issues, like, we have the most connected society in the history of our existence, and yet loneliness is at an all-time high. And then we have this amazing technology, Web 3. We can build whole new worlds and universes and metaverses to help people with these problems. We can allow a much fairer distribution and redistribution of wealth back into the hands of creators and innovators for making this amazing things, who can then redistribute those systems of power and control back into their users. It's amazing. In my opinion, we can create these amazing circles of flow. Decentralized economies based on the original ethos of blockchain, in my understanding. A fairer, self-governing system allowing the democratization of community-driven ideas that truly allow us to extend our understanding of the human condition. Amazing. So I want to end with a quote by Miles Davis, because, he managed to change the face of jazz. Notoriously difficult man to work with, but his influence, is forever lasting. And he said, if you sacrifice your art because of some woman or some man or for some color or for some wealth, you certainly can't be trusted. So, we want to encourage people to make cool things, use our powers for good, and maybe we might actually make the world a better place. Thank you.